Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, tonight's meeting begins on a sad note. It is with a heavy heart that the district office administration and staff share the passing of our friend and colleague, Tanya Dornick. Tanya was the administrative assistant to Dr. Jennifer Hermes, our chief operating officer. Tanya handled certificates of insurance, student accident reports and insurance, archives, and FOIA requests. But more than that, she was a kind and gentle soul who truly will be missed. So on behalf of our board, our administration, and staff, I'd like to extend our sincere condolences to Tanya's family and friends at this difficult time. I will now move on to my president's report. While you are all probably as thrilled as I am that it looks like spring is actually here, it is hard to believe that that means there are only 2 months left before we graduate the Lake Forest High School class of 2023. We are in the home stretch of the school year, yet there is still so much on our calendar, including tomorrow's SAT suite of assessments. I'm sure many of you are taking it, so we try not to keep you out too late tonight. Our honors recitals, senior breakfast, the spring musical, prom, and completion of spring sports seasons, just to name a few. Spring is the season of new beginnings, and spring also feels like a good time for reminders. I'd like to remind our community, students, and staff of what it means to be a scout. Our carefully and very intentionally crafted One Lake Forest High School statement is the perfect reminder of what that means. So I'd like to refresh everyone's memory, and I'm going to ask you to bear with me as I read it once again. District 115, Lake Forest Community High School, espouses the importance of fostering an inclusive environment for all students and staff. An inclusive environment encourages the affirmation, appreciation, and exploration of multiple identities and multiple perspectives. We understand that excellence and exemplary school districts foster a culture of inclusion where the lives and needs of all students are validated, recognized, and appreciated, and are centered in the educational experience provided. District 115 knows that every student has an incredible capacity to learn. Our responsibility is to create an environment that maximizes the possibility for each student's growth. In order to maximize the possibility for each student's growth, we continue to actively work to eliminate barriers, systems, and practices that maintain or contribute to disparities, inequities, discrimination, and intolerance of any kind. Our district is better for all students and staff when we embrace and value the diversity that exists. It is our responsibility to expose students to diverse learning experiences and perspectives and to assist students in thinking about themselves and the world around them. We want our students to be prepared to successfully engage the larger global community and have the courage to make a difference. District 115 creates an environment where listening, understanding, and sharing of diverse thoughts and experiences are valued and respected across all stakeholder groups. This requires great intention, thoughtful planning, opportunities for engagement, and a sustained commitment for the Board of Education, from the Board of Education and the superintendent. District 115 knows that staff create and foster the daily environment for our students to maximize their full potential. We continue to prepare students for the diverse ideas and identities that they will encounter in the larger global community, and we encourage their understanding, empathy, exploration, and celebration of those differences. District 115 values parent and community partnerships and believes that by leveraging and seeking the cultural assets that exist within and outside the school community, we enhance the life outcomes and opportunities for our students. I chose to read our One Lake Forest High School statement tonight because of obvious concerns regarding resulting from recent events at our school. I wanted to make it unquestionably clear that this board and administration will not condone nor accept persecution of students or staff. We have high expectations for every individual who enters our building, and we will continue to work hard to support all students and staff. On a final note, I wanted to thank our community for supporting John Noble Dewey Weinbrenner and me in the April 4th election. It was uncontested, but we still appreciate those of you that came and voted. I know I speak on behalf of all three of us in saying how honored we are to serve the communities of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, and Knollwood as members of your Board of Education for 4 more years. So thank you for allowing me to take so much time tonight. Now, I would like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Montgomery, who, due to a death in his family, is joining us remotely for his superintendent's report. Dr. Montgomery?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you again, Jenny and board, for supporting me today. As Jenny said, I had calling hours in a funeral today in Ohio midday. Blessed to be with you this evening and most grateful for the support that all of you have shown to me in the recent days. Often we say within the district that family must come first, and it is wonderful to have a team of board and cabinet that believe that and exemplify it in every interaction, including those in which prevent me from or preclude me from being with you tonight. So I will share my screen and move through the superintendent's report. So please give me a moment while I present that. Ms. Sinzer, are you okay? Can you see the presentation okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so tonight's report is covering 3 topics. One is to build on quickly support for what Jenny said in her board president's report. Then I will move into the referendum and have a quick conversation about that and finish with a shared services annual report. This is the first in recent years, and I'm hoping it will be an annual event, really encompassing an analysis for the last 2 years of shared services and the benefits of that agreement. Beginning with One Lake Forest High School. Jenny read to you the whole document. I want to just add that in order to maximize really the possibility for each student's growth, we must come together as a community and work against disparities, inequities, and discrimination. And our district is better for all students and staff when we embrace and value the diversity that exists among us and between us. Over the last several weeks, you've heard from Dr. Lennart about challenging experiences that happen both within and outside of our walls. And the events created fear, worry, uncertainty for our students and staff of the LGBTQ plus community. And I want to reinforce with the board our commitment to One Lake Forest High School, which means that in the same way that we work on so many other initiatives across the district, we are going to address these head on, because there's no place within the LFHS community for any intolerance. And my request, my plea, I beseech you as adults to be mindful of our own choices, both within and outside of the school walls, and how they impact the example we are setting for our students. And I am fortunate to serve a board that was a part of creating this One Lake Forest High School statement that started with Dr. Holland, that concluded with Dr. Lennart, the education committee. We used One Lake Forest High School and the Portrait of a Learner to build the foundation for our strategic plans. Those 2 documents are integrated in everything we're working on. And I want the community to know that we will stand up and have challenging conversations when things occur that are impacting our community or are incongruent with what we believe for our students and our staff and our community. The next topic I would like to talk about is the referendum. Before I do, I want to congratulate Jenny, Dewey, and John. Having a consistent board and having a board that supports the administration and the staff is paramount to moving through the work that school districts do. And these leaders that are sitting in front of you today have led through the pandemic. And a school board's position was thankless prior to the pandemic. And you think about what schools who were essentially the epicenter of COVID-19 in many regards went through, and what the board members went through in that leadership. The fact that they signed up again is a testament to their character and their dedication to this district.
That our spouses might have called it something different than that.
Jenny, if you hear Mrs. Montgomery's statements, I think that maybe they're in line with your spouses as well. The fact that you all said, I want to continue to do this work, means so much to myself and cabinet, and I want to thank you for continuing this journey with us. When we look at the results for the referendum, the best that we can say right now is cautiously optimistic. That remains our phrase and will continue to be our phrase until the votes are certified on April 20th. The Board of Elections updated their website on Friday of last week, and our margin was at 120 votes to the positive. Now we're sitting at 97, so it is narrowed. We remain cautiously optimistic. And for those of you who don't know how this is coming together, the votes are still being counted from a mail-in perspective, because any votes that were postmarked on the 4th and mailed accordingly are still in the mix, and they will accept those votes 14 days after the election, and then the certification is happening, or the canvassing is happening on April 20th. So we remain cautiously optimistic. I will say this, though, even though I think that we are going to pull ahead on this, I think the road to building trust with this community is going to continue for years to come. So when you think of the fact that we had 30% voter turnout, now that's high for Lake County, because the average, I think, is 13% of voters participated in the elections in April, and we had 30%. Only 15%, right? 15% and some change are saying yes to this. 15% and a little less are not. So you have 70% that didn't engage, 15% that were against it, and 15% plus 97 are in support. So what that tells me is we need to continue to demonstrate effective communication, transparency, stay true to what we set out to do with this project, and hopefully lay the groundwork for more effective relationships, more open communication, and ultimately garnering trust among our stakeholders. Thank you to everybody who did vote, and we are watching with bated breath as we get closer and closer to April 20th. You will hear from us again after that point when the votes have been canvassed. Moving into the shared services report. As I said, this is an annual report that we are going to present, hopefully in April each year. But when I was hired, one of the key goals that both boards gave me was they wanted me to do an analysis of shared services and determine if it is still a benefit to both districts and ultimately the three communities. And I think that it's important to note that in the last 2 years, we spent a great deal of time on this. And I say unequivocally that I am in support of shared services. And next year, we will celebrate the 20th anniversary of a shared service agreement. So, in the recent years, well, not maybe recent, over the last 2 decades, there have been boards and the community members who question, is this still good for us? So I am here to say, after 2 years of work, I believe without a question it's still good for us. And my hope is that we continue to communicate the benefits of this agreement year over year to help educate our community the why behind a shared services agreement. When I look at the benefits, I think about enhancing our impact and economies of scale. So I look at technology, I look at teaching and learning, communications, and I look at the through lines that we can draw between supporting both districts with shared personnel through technology support, infrastructure, think networking personnel who can cross the lines between both districts where you're not having to hire out for services, or you're not able, or you don't have to pay 67 employees who have this specialty to come over to 115. The fact that we have one team supporting tech is a major improvement in the level of service and cost savings that we can provide. When you look at teaching and learning, you look at the through lines between the portrait, and then ultimately, although we have separate strategic plans, they're all aligned to that portrait. And the fact that you have curriculum that, as we're, for example, looking at a new English language arts curriculum, K-8 in 67, the high school English department is weighing in on what we need to do to help ensure that the high school receives students that are ready in terms of their reading, writing skills that will prepare them ultimately for the journey 9 through 12. Looking at math adoptions and how the math curriculum fits K-12. The ability to communicate across both districts through a shared service lens is increasing the support that we're able to give students and families. Communications, Melissa and her team are able to celebrate what's happening in both districts and share through Insight, the 411, the new website, the Let's Talk series that we have done, as well as many other avenues that we have invested in to ensure that communications feels the same whether as you matriculate from 67 to 115. Two other areas I want to highlight are the benefits of safety and security in facilities. On our website yesterday, we posted a new position that will be a shared director of safety and security, which was a recommendation from a security audit we did in the fall from FEA Security. There was a board presentation, I think, in December. That new position will help ensure that as we're developing protocols for the elementary, they mirror what the students will experience in the high school, and our students in this terrifying day and age we are living in will be better prepared should an incident happen, God forbid, in any of those buildings, because they are being trained in a uniform fashion from kindergarten through 12th grade. And then when you think of the projects that are on the horizon in the short term and the long term for facilities, having one director of operations as Dan Mortensen, who is able to see through economies of scale the work that's being done in both districts, whether it be a Cherokee addition or improvements to transitions in 115, you have a through line of the work that's happening across 67 and 115. When we look at the financials, solely the financials, we look at, because we've been doing this for 20 years, no longer how much we're saving, but rather how much it would cost each district if we were to separate. So the cost per district to staff each district independently as opposed to a shared service model. As we look at the methodology of this analysis, we included base salaries, pensions, health insurance. We excluded equipment, supplies, professional development, and we made some assumptions. One, we did configurations based on other similar organizations. We made sure that in our assumptions that the employees would remain within their employee district if their position was included in the configuration. So we have delineating agreements. So each employee is housed with a primary contract with a respective district, and then there's a delineating agreement that ultimately is an intergovernment agreement between both districts to share the salary cost. And then the other assumption we made was new positions are likely not going to be part-time employees. They're going to be full-time employees if we were to split. When you look at how many shared service employees we have to date, we have 38.5. And you can see on the screen, they're broken down by department, from buildings and grounds to technology. And then here is what we would need to do. So I'm going to go back one. 38.5 is shared. If we would want to split, we would need 23.5 in 67 and 22.5 in 115. And again, remember, because we have done this for almost 20 years, we're no longer looking at how much we're saving, but rather how much it would cost us to separate. So essentially, it would cost us 7.5 additional employees to split into 2 districts. And then when you look at, well, how much does that really mean? In 67 alone, it's an annual cost of $545,078. In 115, it's an annual increase of $761,138. What we put underneath each number respectively is the impact on a 5-year forecast. So for 67, because we deal in 5-year forecasts in terms of our projections to do financial modeling, in 67, it would be a $2.7 million increase. And in 115, it would be a $3.8 million increase if we were to separate. So what that means is the taxpayers are benefiting from $6.5 million in a 5-year forecast between both districts that are being able to be reallocated to other initiatives and other supports for kids. That's just personnel alone. So 6.5 million just for the people. Then look at the other things on this slide that sometimes get lost in the mix. We would need approximately $1 million between both districts in technology equipment, licensing, infrastructure. Think of servers, folks, that we're sharing among both districts. Another $500,000 per district. That's not in the personnel. And then there's at least 13 other shared contracts that would need to be renegotiated. And we are currently reaping the benefit of economies of scale with contracts. So for example, when we transitioned our website, we did one contract and split it between 2 districts. If we were not together, we would be negotiating for one individual contract, which would, we receive benefits because we're combining. We would have to do that 13 times in each district. And the last bullet is something that we don't talk a lot about, but there is no administrative space that's allocated for 67 right now. We have repurposed the admin space previously for student space in Deer Path. So if the districts were to separate, we would need to recapture space that was being used for kids, or rent space, or build additional space for the administration section that is not housed in 67. So the building that you're in right now houses all of those many of those 38.5 employees, forgive me, in the second floor of West Campus. There isn't that space dedicated in 67. So while we have talked about this over the last 2 years, we've really talked about it for the last 20 years, almost 20 years. And I am going to shift my narrative with the board's blessings from should we continue to do this to annually celebrating why we are doing this. And I think that's a change in conversation, but I am taking the ownership as a superintendent to educate the communities the benefit of it. So our ability to reallocate $6.5 million in a 5-year forecast, every forecast. Think about what that means when you go, if you go 20 years in the past in 5-year increments, or 20 years moving forward in 5-year increments. And notice that these are just numbers, and I didn't say this previously, these numbers are today's dollars. We didn't bake in escalation or inflation costs. So these savings, or the ability to reallocate funds, will just continue to grow year over year. That is the conclusion of my report. I would be happy to entertain any questions from the board, given that I just presented a whole lot of information. That is the first time the board has heard this, and hopefully not the last, as we report this year over year.
Okay, Matt, you don't have any questions from the board at this time. Is there anything you want to say in closing? Because I think that you're going to sign off, am I right?
I am. If there's no questions, I just want to thank you again for supporting me and my family to not be with you today. It was really important, and I'm most grateful that I could be there and support my family during this difficult time. Thank you again.
Our thoughts are with all of you. Okay, now we will move on to updates. I don't see our student council representatives here, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sasson for the principal's report. Dr. Lennart is not with us tonight. Fortunately for her, it's due to very happy reasons. Her daughter is getting married, so the mother of the bride is on the East Coast right now. So Dr. Sasson, I would like to turn the meeting over to you for the principal's report.
Thank you, Ms. Zinsser. Good evening, everyone. I will be brief, but there's a lot of things going on in the last several weeks and in the weeks to come that I'm excited to share. In 2019, then Choir Director Tim Haskett, along with Robert Bassel and Janine Kessler, began planning a spring break tour of historic European sites. The original trip was canceled due to the pandemic, obviously. Finally, this year, the tour was able to take place, and it was a smashing success. The Lakes Forest High School Music Department toured Rothenburg for an impromptu performance at St. Jakob's Church, Prague for a concert performance at the Czech Music Museum, Vienna for a panoramic tour and a concert performance at St. Stephen's Cathedral, and Salzburg for a concert performance at the Mozarteum, or TAM, something like that. I wanted to give special thanks to our staff, who led and chaperoned our students, specifically our orchestra director, Robert Bassel, our choir director, Matt Begale, our band director, Janine Kessler, our pianist, Natasha Ma, our technical theater director, Mary Toldano, and our activities director and director of the arts, Ashley Malik, as well as over 20 parent volunteers who stuck with them for all 10 days that they were in Europe. They came back tired, but having experienced a wonderful, wonderful experience. So thank you for that. Quite simply, our boys baseball team traveled to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and went 4-0. Have had a great start to the season. They were the one team that traveled throughout spring break. Today was the Scouting Our Summer Internship and Opportunities Fair during lunch periods. It was awesome. 16 companies from around the area attended, offering our students summer job opportunities. 10 companies attended to offer internship and volunteering opportunities. We are immensely grateful to the Lake Forest Lake Bluff Chamber of Commerce for their continued partnership. As we work to continue to build our career pathway programming in the years to come, these partnerships will be vital for us. The lunch periods were packed. We had students roaming the tables, sharing contact information. Jobs were being offered on the spot. Summer opportunities around the area are going fast. We'll be doing this every year. We're going to plan to move it earlier in March. At the end of this, before the end of this school year, we'll send out a survey to these companies saying, did you hire And are you planning to use them? At the end of the summer, we'll say, how did our scouts do for you as employees? Do we have work to do in terms of employment training and any things that we can incorporate into our programming? Very special thanks go to Miss Cindy Ragna, retired administrative assistant for Ed Services, and Miss Melanie Walsh, the new administrative assistant in Ed Services, for the planning and implementation of this really awesome event. We will be planning professional seminars for students this spring during lunch periods in the College and Career Resource Center. Rehearsal is underway for the spring musical this year. The production will be Big Fish, and performances are on April 27th, 28th, and 29th at 7 p.m. Tickets are on sale now on the homepage of our website. And this past Saturday, the girls' lacrosse program finally had the opportunity to celebrate head coach Kat Catanzaro being named the Illinois Coach of the Year for the Central Section. We are extremely proud of Coach Kat and the program that she leads. Tomorrow, we will administer the SAT suite of assessments. Freshmen and sophomores will take the PSAT, and juniors will take the SAT. Seniors will sleep in. Over the course of the last several months, we have taken a building-wide approach to preparing our students for this assessment. We've displayed testing tips and words of the day on our TVs around the building. Our core departments have honed in on the many college readiness skills embedded within the tests and covered them in their classes and incorporated them into instruction over the past several months. Approximately 35 juniors took part in our Thursday SAT prep course in partnership with ATC Prep in Highland Park. Approximately 100 other juniors took part in our Saturday SAT test prep course over the last 6 weeks. Good luck to our students, and a tremendous thanks goes out to all of our staff who will be administering the test and providing the best testing environment possible. And that is it. Thank you.
Patrick, quick question for you. On the job fair, has there been any thought to bring that back for alumni in regards to the kids going to college? I know they tend to look for in their different disciplines for internships and those things, but as you bring that forward for the years, and I know it's directed to high school kids, but is there thought in terms of maybe working with Leslie or the Alumni Association in terms of kind of bridging that as a conduit for those professionals and, or those companies?
Great question. The conversations I've had with Leslie and the alumni group, which is expanding and amplifying our alumni footprint as we speak, is on the website for the LFHS alumni will be a link to a portal for alumni and community corporate companies and community agencies to connect. So vacancies, opportunities for our alum to access those.
Yeah, no, that'd be great, because I know freshman and sophomore year, it's usually difficult. They're not quite into their discipline yet, so they're usually coming back home and doing things. I mean, junior and senior year, they're finding their way. But I think giving kids that may be switching majors, undecided, those types of things, kind of continuing that idea and that bridge just to the local companies that are supporting us and supporting those kids as well.
Thank you.
Jen, question? Go ahead. So also related to the job fair. So I know there's multiple career connections kind of dates that we do. Was this done last year as well?
It was.
Okay. Was it on a day off? Because I think I remember hearing, or is it always during the lunch period?
The summer opportunities and interns fair is always on a school day during the lunch periods. Okay. We have our open doors. Job shadowing this February was on a day off. Our professional seminar panels virtual in the fall was on a day off.
Gotcha. We're
looking at, we did that this year because it's what we've always done. We're looking at, are there better ways to capture our students?
Exactly. That's why I was bringing it up, because I remember you presenting to the APT and you talked about that. And so you sounded like this one had great participation during the lunch period. I didn't know if that was the first time or if you'd done it as a pilot. So it sounds like you're potentially considering, maybe not the same, but for some of those other career connections days, because it sounds like we had great participation, which is awesome.
And for the professional seminars in the spring, those will be during lunch periods as well.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sasson. So we are moving on to public participation. At this point in the evening's agenda, this opportunity for public participation or public comment will be limited to comments about this meeting's agenda items only. So please hold all other comments until the following opportunity, which is a little bit later on the agenda, for public comment at that time. So I see a lot of students here, and I'm very sorry that I have to ask you to wait. This is kind of board practice, and I've held others to it, so I have to hold you to it too. So bear with us, okay? So if there's anyone that would like to address the board at this time for items specific to tonight's agenda, I invite you to come to the podium and give us your name and go ahead and share comments. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to reports. So I am very happy to introduce Ashley Malik and Tim Burkhalter, who are here with our athletics and activities report, which we do each year. I can't believe, has it really been a year since we've heard from you? Holy cow.
You missed us, didn't you?
We did.
I figured. Let me see if this will. No, that's not it. I just want to give a shout out to my Europe bus. Woot woot. Miss you guys so much. I'll start a timer because I've been asked 14 times how long we will take. I'll let you know. But we'll be faster than Dr. Montgomery, promise. So I'm Ashley Malik. I'm our student activities director. I can say he's not here. And the instructional director of the arts. And I, as noted, did have the privilege to go with our directors to Europe over spring break, which I always say was exhausting but fun and worthwhile. And it was one of those moments that the very last performance, they just left it all on the stage, and it was incredible. And I'm a crier, and I'm like tearing up in the back, and I'm like, this was so hard to get them here, but this is exactly why we do it. So I just want to thank the board. This process started in 2019. Jen Hermes, you have been busy with this contract. We have been over this sideways, back and forth. How do we do this? How do we make sure we are being fiscally responsible, but also giving our students the best experience, which is oftentimes an administrator's balance. You know, that's the line we constantly have to kind of think about. And so I think we did a pretty good job. We learned a lot, but our kids are amazing, and that's basically what we all came away with was we are exhausted, but that was so wonderful, and we can't wait to do it again. So thank you for giving us that option and that opening that door, though it was when you provided us that opportunity, no one really knew when it would happen. So we just kept kicking it out to a time when we could safely and responsibly take our kids on this trip. So we will continue. So our big focus for student activities, clubs, activities, athletics is engagement and getting our kids connected. Currently, to date, we are at 89% engaged, and proud of that number, but hesitantly pushing further. We know that's not enough. We know that's not where we want to be. We always want to make connections with every single one of our students. We have a variety of offerings, and I feel like we've really kind of rounded out what we present our students through our pilot club programs, through our athletics. We have 33 different athletic opportunities. It covers 87 different levels. We have 68 non-athletic opportunities. That encompasses all of our after-school activities, clubs activities, theater productions, music groups, and a lot, short of 2 of my sponsors are all staff and faculty members, which I think is really, really impressive that they want to continue their day with our students in a way that is sometimes really unstructured. It is whatever they want to do that day, however it's going to look. I just got a text on Remind about like Tuesdays, Tote Tuesday for Environmental Club, and I was like, this is adorable. Like they're starting to do all this stuff and really putting things together and coming back full swing. I would say overall our groups, we have 75% of our student body of 1,414 kids involved with 2 or more extracurriculars. That is a sweet spot Tim and I try and hit, is that if a student is not in fall cross country, they should be in a club or an activity or something on kind of my end of the building. If they are out of season or didn't make a team, I'm constantly asking Tim, when are your numbers updated? When are cuts posted? When are things like that hitting our students so we can kind of catch them and get them involved in other things? One student didn't end up making a team over the summer like they had anticipated, and now they're on another team that she has said, I had no idea my high school experience could look like this. And it's something where we have a minute to regroup, to talk to these kids, to talk them through getting cut or not making a team or not making a play can really feel like, in that moment, what's my next 12 weeks gonna look like? I thought it was gonna be like this with these people, and now it's not. And that's a big part of Tim and I's office, is making sure we catch those kids, have those conversations, really get to know them one-on-one and who they are and what they're about. And that, honestly, is what brings me to work each day. I love being with the kids. I was kind of laughing at Patrick's report. You forgot the slides. But I was like laughing, and I was like, the pictures, because they bring us so much joy. And it's really fun to be able to be in their spaces, seeing what they're up to, and finding what makes them tick. And so it was cool. I asked a couple of students, why are you involved? And throughout our board report, the full report, there's quotes and different pieces there. And their answers are so varied. And what was fun was to see, so Kashyap I met on the Europe trip, and he was ridiculously fun, like so kind. He played four-hand piano piece with Natasha Ma. It's such a complex piece. It was an accompaniment that they both had to play at the same piano, and I had no idea he did that. And so I met him, and then I learned more about him and what he's involved, and I asked him, I said, why did you do this? Why are you engaged? And he just said, like, the people I meet, the experiences I get, the things that he's able to hang out with a different group than he normally sees during the school day. And so I thought that was just really authentic, because there's a lot of times that kids are struggling to make connections during class. And I always describe things like Stitch Club as you are going to walk into a space where everyone's going to be interested in what you're interested in. You know that. You have something in common already. So the next step is just getting to know them and introducing yourselves and building those relationships. With that, this is just for club and activities, and Tim will talk more about athletics. For clubs and activities, there's something I've been tracking, obviously, for a couple of years now. This is a new data point that I'm just sharing with the board. Is just currently we have 63% of our student body involved in just clubs and activities. So I've been trying to follow the line of what that might be, what clubs exist, what kids are getting engaged in. And I've just been really proud that it's increasing, because I think sometimes students think, well, if I'm an athlete, I'm not in clubs. And what Tim and I have found is that is definitely not true. There are a lot of kids that go on all sides of the building and get involved in whatever way they want. And I mean, his intramural program, he'll speak about that, is booming. And it's really cool to see the kids engaging in fun, competitive spaces while also finding, going on a German trip to the art museum, like different instances like that where they are building community within our walls.
Thanks, Ashley. Tim Burkhalter, Athletic Director at the high school. This is my 18th year as the Athletic Director, and with all due respect to everybody else, I have the best job in the building. I honestly believe that because I get to see so many of our kids and our community engaged together. It's not just the athletes that are participating, but I get to be at events where our community joins us. And I think that's what makes this place really special. I think it's what a Friday night has a really special vibe when you're here at a ball game on a Friday night, or even a Saturday lower level contest where you're out on the corner. It just really is a special place. And I think that when you look at our participation numbers, and I'm really proud of them. I'm a math guy. I study these. I really look to say, how can we continue to squeeze more? In the back of my head all year has been Dewey's comments to try to push even farther, which is good. But if you look at the offerings we have for a school of 1,414 kids, this is as robust a program as schools of 3,000 and 4,000 kids. Okay, it's not just an opportunity to participate. We have 12 programs exclusively for the boys, 14 for the girls. Very proud that we have a number of co-ed programs. In a moment, I'll talk a little bit about our co-ed wrestling program and the success that program has been having. A number of years ago, we started the Special Olympics program, which has many of our athletes with special needs paired with other students, other peers, that then they become lifelong friends with, not just participating in bocce ball, but sharing time in the hallway at lunch, and that's the richness of programs like that. Ashley mentioned our intramural program. I can't tell you how much pride we take in where that program is because it's student-led. We have a flag football program in the fall that's been popular. We think we're going to get a girls' flag football program this next fall that's being supported and sponsored by the Chicago Bears. In the winter, we have about 200 kids that participate in our intramural basketball program. And as an outcry of our student interest survey, which we do every year, we shifted away from cornhole, bag-o, if you will, and we offered intramural bowling this year for the first time. We had 58 participants in intramural bowling, 8 of which had not participated in any activity at all. So we grabbed 8 new kids total. Of those 58, 8 were sitting on the sidelines and not engaged, and we grabbed 8 of them, and we had 58 that participated in a fairly condensed pilot offering of intramural bowling, but we think that's going to be a springboard. It's one of the 2 sports that we don't offer, that our IHSA offered, which is boys and girls bowling. We weren't sure how that was going to work with not having a bowling alley locally. Mr. Werner and his staff worked tirelessly with Bertrand's and found an opportunity for us to come up there in a couple of their not as crowded pockets where we could get the kids up there, and it's just really been a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that program growing and continuing to grow. As Ashley mentioned, we have an offering not just for varsity level, but if you look at 87 levels, varsity, JV, JV2, sophomore, fresh soph, freshman A, freshman B, we have places where kids can get plugged in, okay? And then there's an opportunity for them to matriculate and grow, and if they want to stay in that sport, those are opportunities as they grow. We have 158 coaches. I want to say that again. Let's think about that. Okay, we don't have 158 math teachers or 158 English teachers. We have 158 coaches, most of which are educators who give of their time from 3:30, sometimes up to 9:30 at night, to provide these opportunities for kids. And that's because of the support of a school board that understands the value of extracurricular activities, that supports both Ashley and I anytime we come up with a new idea. We don't get a lot of resistance. We're met with, how can we make that happen? Let's make that happen. Let's grow that. Let's have that. So I thank you for that, because there's not a lot of schools, I don't think, that can have that kind of support when you don't have 3,000, 4,000 students. I'm also very proud of the red numbers here. The participation numbers are 1,493 overall. Obviously, we don't have 1,493 unique participants. We have many multi-sport athletes, but we have 697 boys and 796 girls participating in athletics or intramurals at Lake Forest High School. Why am I pointing that out? I think if you look at the comparative data to 21-22, we haven't had any fall off. We thought we might have a little bit of a COVID hangover, a little bit of a delay to get back to where we wanted to be. We're very proud that as we continue to have a shrinking enrollment, we haven't had, percentage-wise, a shrinking participation rate. So we're really proud of that. How do I advance to the next one on here? This one? Another thing this year, and I take a moment just to share some of the successes. One of my goals this year was to celebrate kids and coaches. And as you take a look, and many people look at the different, this is fall and winter only. We don't have spring in there yet, as we're just up and running with that. But I'm really proud of the opportunities for our kids to represent their high school locally, represent their high school as members of a conference. And if you look, that we've had 5 teams qualify for the state finals. We've had 15 individual state qualifiers. We've had conference champions. We've had regional champions, sectional champions. We've had a state championship dance team that went down to the state finals and were recognized as the top team in the state. We had a returning doubles team of Lainey O'Neill and Isabel Chong who defended their title in doubles, which was really cool, okay? And I think for those kids it was cool. But what's even neater is a while back we surveyed the student body and we asked them what are the most wonderful things about Lake Forest High School, and then we compiled a 7 wonders of Lake Forest High School. And one of those wonders was what's called a clap out. And for those who may not be familiar what a clap out is that anytime we have an individual or team activity, I know we celebrated our musicians when they went downstate, anytime we have anyone leave our building and gonna go represent Lake Forest High School, the entire student body during one of the 10-minute breaks on one of the block days is afforded the opportunity they're led by a band, they march through the hallways, and the kids stand in the upper commons, the lower commons. They kind of make a trail for them to walk through as they parade through the school. And it's not just the kids that are going to the state finals, but all of their classmates, all of their friends, all of their colleagues that are celebrating in that with them. And so as we bring the drum line in and we march them through the hallways, I get really excited when I look around, not just at the athletes that are being clapped out, but rather the entire student body that's participating in that really cool thing that they have told us is special. And so I want to thank everybody here who supports our athletic program. I know Ashley has a number of celebrations she wants to highlight as well, and then we'll talk about a few of our next steps.
So like Tim said, we had a lot of different celebrations and activities. This is just an overview, but it was really interesting to see how the percussion students were going to do a clap out for themselves. We had a lot of our musicians awarded state recognition, invited to all state honors competitions, Theater Fest, performing in the pit orchestra, all of those celebrations. And then our math team is actually headed to state in 2 weeks. They qualified as an entire team. And so we're excited because this is the first time they'll be competing in person again. So they are ready, they are pumped, they keep practicing all these calculations. I have no idea what they're doing, but they are really building their team back and coming back after COVID. With that, even just something with Women's Club, our Women's Club hosted a Project Cinderella fundraiser and collected over 90 dresses for prom. And they give them to CLC, Project Cinderella's run through them. Students who are in need or looking or cannot afford prom attire can go and just shop. And they're like, what size do you want to look at? And then you go to that rack and you pick it out. And it's just really cool to see our students coming together to support others through things like our Grateful Market or through things like Women's Club and their volunteer hours, but also then to be recognized for just the excellence in the practice and the honing of their skills that they've been doing this year. Our engagement progress to date, this is a data point you've seen before. Like I mentioned before, we are 89%, and looking at the seniors who are 84.8%, I did a little digging into trying to find that's lower for our seniors than they typically are. But the story I followed was they were at 89% their freshman year, and then the second half of their freshman year, they were sent home. And so then they dipped to 83%, then they went to 85%, and now they're 84.8%. So over 4 years, these kids have been through a lot. And I think it's a big reason why Tim and I focus so hard on the freshmen and what they're doing and getting them engaged, because oftentimes if we can hook them early, they stay and they're interested and they're building that community. And those are the kids that are excited and they're leaders by the time they're seniors. And so it is an intentional effort to see and to follow our freshmen through and to get them connected, because once they know and that door is open and they are building that community with friends, that connection stays and follows them through. Of the 10.5% not participating, that represents 156 students. We've been collecting a lot of information about these students, who they are. We know them all by name. We know them, what they've been up to. We know if they were engaged last year. 96 of these students are currently accessing MTSS supports, which is multi-tiered system of supports. It's our students who are looking for more help academically, struggling with executive functioning, needing help with test prep, needing reminders on how to complete homework, how to study, creating all these skills. So 66% of our kids who are not participating are working on academic success right now. And for me, I know then that they are connected with an adult in the building, which is a big goal, and also to kind of leave them alone for a minute. They know we're here, we talk to them, they know what we offer. When we are trying to support these kids in MTSS, we are supporting the whole student, but it isn't something where they need more right now. It is recognizing where they're at, what their challenges are, and letting them be a student first. With that, there are 50 other students who we are looking at data on and pulling. The hard part with the MTSS data is it has to matriculate in first throughout the year. These are not kids that we're like, absolutely, they're gonna be in these supports or need this help. It generally is a story that's building or a situation, or kids that all of a sudden, they don't realize they need that assistance. Looking at the list of other students, there are 50 students right now that are not on this capture. There are kids that we know are accessing social emotional support. There's other pieces there. And so that kind of goes to our next steps is, and I'm just gonna jump to the bottom one, having an adult in the building that they trust, that they are bonded with, that they feel safe and want to go to school and talk to and feel seen is a reason why kids get engaged. It is absolutely, there are things that come up and kids who are struggling, and the first thing I do is I say, you're in the freshman sophomore play, I'm gonna call John Waniger. I know he's the director, I know he has a relationship with you. If I'm gonna have a conversation with you, you don't know me yet, so I'm gonna pull someone I know you trust, and we're gonna talk about what's going on, and we're gonna see why this is happening. And that, to me, is more important, getting those 50 kids engaged. And what's nice is I can now pull and say, okay, social workers, what do I need? Okay, guidance counselors, what do you know? We start to tell a bigger story. And that's something that our teams are so used to and are really impressive at with our core team. Patrick, I didn't know you'd be here, but our student supports are really, really hitting the nail on the head this year, and it has been really impressive to see. And that is something that we have then started to align our data with our truancy and our absenteeism. What's their engagement look like? So we are starting to pull all these nets together to see what we can do to support all kids. Also, shared services. We have a lot more middle school data, which has been lovely. We now know and see this student learner profile, what they're interested in, what they're motivated by, what they might need, what really kind of gets them ticking academically, but then also that links to engagement. And so we've been doing a lot of that, and that data has been invaluable with getting our freshmen set up and knowing them before they walk in the door. So with that, I don't know if we beat Matt. Oh no, that wasn't good. Sorry guys. If you have any questions, you can email me.
Does anyone have anything they want to ask while we have our two guests here and enthusiastic and full of data?
No, you're fine.
This feels like so exciting always to see this, and it makes me so happy to see the engagement and your commitment, and so I don't want to shortchange that because I loved it. I just have one question. You made reference at the very end to being able to see the data of the incoming students from 67 as part of the shared services. As the 265 members, do you have the same line of sight to the feeder schools from 65 in St. Mary's, who's our other sort of third district that we think about?
So private schools are a little less consistent in how they report their data to us, but what's nice about them is they're small. So we can have conversations with their faculty and talk about what those students might need. We have streamlined 67 data and 65 placement data, and what that has done is there's like almost a piece of information that teachers can give us on the students and what they need, and those are those pieces that we pull in to make sure these students might need more support in these ways. So we're working on it, and it's definitely something that we're trying to do, but we don't also want it to be cumbersome for the elementary schools as they're doing their placement data. That's a lot. So when they give us more, we take it. But for St. Mary's, it really comes down to they come in, they get a private school tour, we talk to them one-on-one. It's an easier small group setting because they all have a visit at once. Yeah, yeah.
One question. So when you're connecting with the elementaries and the feeders, what are the opportunities for those kids to actually come in and touch the building? I mean, I know that you were trying to do the big fish thing and have them show up, and that
Yes.
ran into some conflicts, but I know it happens with music and some of the art stuff. But are there other programs or other things that you're doing through the year to let those 8th graders kind of really start to see and set those expectations? How does that happen?
Yeah, I think our Scout experience has been wonderful in getting our kids connected. I've been the instructional director of the arts now for this calendar year. I've seen music do it in some pretty impressive ways. And so we mimicked that quickly with theater and doing a theater fun day. And that's how one of our middle school students is now in Big Fish. We pulled him and we're like, can you be the son? We need someone young. And so he's in our production and participating, and that building that gap and kind of exposing our students to more of what our clubs and activities are in real time is something that has been intentionally things that we want to embed more clearly. We pulled way back with COVID because we weren't crossing into the schools, but now we can reopen that, and I know Tim has some things
Yeah,
he knows.
I think that to think, areas athletically, we have a number of future scout camps that we offer in the summer months to kind of let them know what's out there, get them connected with a coach. We have a number of community athletic opportunities that work very closely with a couple programs in the winter. Our boys and girls basketball program in particular have a strong 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade presence. We have a community ed swim program where I want to say as young as 7 years old, 6, 7 years old, learn to swim all the way up through high school. And so we're doing everything we can. We have a couple coaches who said, hey, I haven't in the past, but I'd like to offer a Future Scouts camp this summer. So I think that we hear that from coaches. Of course, we want to do that, and we welcome that.
All right, Tim and Ashley, thank you. I think the reason it doesn't feel like it's been a whole year is because you come with such enthusiasm. It lasts. Okay, we are going to move on to our committee reports, and I'm going to start with Dewey Weinbrenner and the Education Committee.
I will give a brief shout out to Ashley and Tim. The thing that gives me confidence that we're not quite at a level that we'd like to be, but we'll get there, is that nobody is more enthusiastic about the work that you do than the two of you. I know as a board we wholeheartedly support it, but thank you for your extraordinary efforts. The Ed Committee's been busy since we last met as a broader board. We met in the middle of March and looked at the Student Rights and Responsibilities Code that Dr. Wallert is revising, and with the help of many, many others. We are excited about the clarity that we think will come with the updates, and I applaud everyone involved for the thoughtfulness. The student conduct code that we have today is cumbersome, and my suspicion is it's not very often used. I have confidence that the product that they are working on will be much clearer for everyone involved, and I hope it leads to great outcomes. In addition, in March, we talked with the leaders, some of the leaders within the math department about an integrated math program that they're developing that will really take our teaching in math to a place that not a lot of schools in high schools in the country, I think, are today. It is being led within the building. Dr. Lennart has really encouraged the work. And so I think there are a number of departments that have similar approaches and forward-looking changes that they would like to make to the curriculum that I really think are going to benefit students moving forward. In that same vein, we met this morning and Dr. Lennart led a very thoughtful discussion of how teachers are leading discussions on controversial topics and issues within the classroom. It's imperative that we do that as a public high school. The state of Illinois, the civics code requires that we do it. Our board policy requires that we do it. It's why we're here. We need to develop critical thinking skills. We do not want to set a specific viewpoint out as a correct one, but it is really important that our students are exposed to controversial issues in a thoughtful way with a well-developed plan to what the educational imperatives are within those discussions, and I know that is happening. I know that work is happening in so many departments. In addition, Patrick led a thoughtful discussion about what's happening from a career development perspective and new alternatives that the school is looking at to help kids who are maybe a little clearer on what their path forward is. So I'm excited to see what that produces as well. So a lot happening in the Ed Committee. John, do you have anything to add there? So I will now turn it over to, back to you, Jenny.
Thank you, Dewey. And now, Finance and Operations Committee, John Noble.
Not a meeting until this coming May. We're eagerly awaiting what the referendum will hold for us. That will kind of dictate a little bit of the agenda for the finance meeting in terms of planning. But we do have a couple things that are coming up on the finance. Jen's team is preparing some metrics and some other items for us to do some additional analysis on going forward. So there's be a couple pilots of information that should help us on the communication out to the community. But yeah, we'll be stepping forward with a meeting and an agenda coming up for May.
Terrific. Policy Committee, Sally Davis.
We have not met since the last board meeting. We are scheduled with our counterparts in District 67 to meet next Tuesday, April 18th at 5 p.m.
Okay, we will move on to liaison reports. Ad Red, John Noble.
So a few things. Legislative groups have all shifted and sent their different bills over to the different houses. I've highlighted a couple different things that are coming our way, and some are still in discussion. Some have been kind of committeed or pushed off, but I've highlighted some of those. So we've got school consolidation is coming back up in one of the discussions. So there's going to be probably something over the next year or two that we'll start to see in terms of what the state is actually looking to have happen. It should not affect us in the near term. Electric school buses is something in terms of still an idea that is coming forward, and they're trying to look at the requirement of the bill would basically push that all new buses after January 1st, 2028 would be electric. So there's some contention in terms of whether that's too aggressive or not enough, but that is something also to look at. The one that I would draw attention to is a current one, which is a cash on hands fund report. And the reason I bring it up is it does touch on what we do currently at Lake Forest, and it's around basically asking school districts not to hold excessive fund reserves. And it's a philosophy we've already had and had for many years, but there are some districts that have held substantial funds in reserve to do future projects. And so there's some specifics to this Senate bill to actually limit that and not overtax districts. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, but that is something moving forward. And then there's a couple other things around safety and security. One is a particular bill on clear and present danger. It's not moving forward in the form it's in, but it's still a topic that we're discussing on Ed Red's side, and there's a school safety committee meeting this week, I think Thursday, maybe tomorrow. But that's something that I'll be attending, but it'll basically give us some specifics on the direction there and some of the laws being passed and looked at. So that is that.
Thank you, John. We are going over to John Venson with the True North Educational Cooperative 804.
Thank you. There's not much to report in addition to the superintendent's meeting this time. The evening's business was relatively perfunctory wrap-up as we approach the end of the academic year. One item of note is that True North sent its anticipated ask from member districts for the next fiscal year, and they continue to struggle as they try to balance what will take place under the True North umbrella and what will take place within the member districts, and what will those shifts do to both revenue and expenses. And as we had a presentation about our transition program, those are the kinds of things that can change significantly what True North is going to deal with. But they are aware of it and are hoping for answers back from the districts.
Okay, and Dave Burns, the Parent Support Organizations.
Okay, so for the foundation, their annual foundation luncheon is coming up soon in just a couple of weeks on April 28th. That is their annual fundraiser, and tickets are still available, so consider going online if you're interested. It also includes an auction of some great items, so could get a good deal there. Related to the business incubator, the foundation is a huge supporter of that. They've provided $5,000. That's what they normally do across 12 of the incubator teams to develop what they call MVP, a minimum viable product. That's just a start to get them going on their projects for what they're planning to do. But pitch night is coming up on May 18th. That's when the real deal happens. And the best teams get awarded, or theoretically, they get awarded money, award prizes based on community donations. So the foundation doesn't actually use their funds to support pitch night. So they are still in need of partners, donation partners, to support pitch night. They have some partners already, but they really could use some more. So consider that. And then the one grant that was a little bit of a secret last time at the board meeting that we couldn't speak to, I do have authority to talk it. It is a plasma cutter. So it's going to be used in kind of their maker space and will just be a tool that can do just about anything in terms of cutting through material. So obviously, with extraordinary amount of power going into it, you just got to be very careful about that and safety issues there. But I'm sure that will be taken care of sufficiently. APT, I was fortunate enough to get a pitch from one of the incubator teams, Homework Haven. So that was one of the teams from the incubator. It was fun to listen to them go through it, and it's a great idea. I won't go into details with it, but it really has to do with letting the students know what their homework is and when it's due all in one place. So apparently Schoology has some gaps in terms of how it presents it to our students, and so there's lots of benefits and problems that they're solving with this application. So we'll see how that transpires, but it was fun to watch it. Teacher Appreciation Week is coming up May 1st through 5th, for which the APT is a significant contributor to, and they're working hard to create a great week for the teachers. Project Safe is a fundraiser to help subsidize the cost of prom, which I think I talked about last meeting, but they're still looking for additional donations. So it's important to subsidize that so the fee can stay down for everybody to be able to go. The talent show was very successful. Over 100 students participated, and with over $7,000 in sponsorships. With some of that, they invested in neon lights and stage equipment that can be used in the future. So nice investment there. I wasn't able to make the boosters meeting, but with some highlights from Sandy Ruprecht, their president. The OSAA scholarship applications are due on April 16th at 10 p.m. So if one of your students is a potential candidate for that, remind them to get it in if they're interested. Booster Madness, their fundraiser, was a very successful and well-received event. Great team, thanks to everyone in the community who helped support it. And they are currently now working on a slate of new board members for 2023 and 2024. So please let Sandy or one of the people in the Boosters Club know if you're interested in being on the board. Any questions?
See, I said there's still a lot going on at the high school, even though we're in the home stretch. Okay, we are now going to move on to our action items. We are getting close, okay? I'm going to have Dr. McHugh weigh in on the first three. So I think the best way to do this is I'm going to make the motion, and when we get into the discussion on the first action item, we're really going to hear from Dr. McHugh the high-level overview of the first three action items. And so we will vote for action item 2 and 3 without that conversation. So any questions or comments from the board, if we could do it all at this time, that would be great. So may I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 shared services compensation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Dr. McHugh.
So we've been working with, our admin team has been working with you, the board, for the last couple of months, talking about compensation for not only our shared services staff, but our 115 admin and also our exempt employees. We know there's been inflation, and we want to do everything we can to stay competitive with our comparable districts so that we can retain our staff and attract new staff, like our new addition we have tonight. So the report has what our recommendations are for you, and if you have any questions about any three of those categories, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 administrative compensation?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 exempt compensation?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of a tenured and non-tenured teacher?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the Perkins and Will Master Contract Agreement for Architectural Services?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Hermes, do you want to give the overview of this one for us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We've been working on this one for a while. The last master agreement with Perkins and Will was done in 2006, so it was time for an update. What this is specifically is somewhat of a template in that it sets the rules, responsibilities of each side as we are partners going forward, but there is still individual action items on each individual project. So this is kind of the framework in which we will hopefully be working our referendum projects through and any projects that we have going forward. I will note there are a couple of items in there. It did take us some time to iron them out, but you will notice that we do have a new fee schedule for architectural fees that's based on the scope of project, which I will also say is less than what we were currently paying. So we picked up some savings there. In addition, it also does a carve out specifically for the referendum project. So that is obviously an unusual size of project. We typically do projects in the $1 to $2 million range at most. And so when you look at that, we did add language anticipating about $88 million of actual construction because they don't receive architect fees on things such as furniture and other entities' fees. So about $88 million worth of construction. And it does make a difference if we do that in one package, two packages, or four packages. So you'll see some carve-outs for that as well. This has gone through legal with both Perkins and Will and with the district's legal counsel, and both have signed off that we've come to these agreements and these terms. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you, Dr. Hermes. And Tiana, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 Quest Food Services contract renewal?
So moved.
Second.
Jen, I'm going to come back to you.
To do so, just want to draw attention to the food service program at Lake Forest High School is run by and large by the employees of District 115. So all of the cafeteria servers, everyone that works in their area actually are individual employees. So what we hire Quest to do is to provide management oversight, menu development, and then economy of scale, because we also piggyback on their purchasing power that they have to acquire food at a lower cost than we could as a much smaller entity. So what this does represent is an increase in that particular contract of 4%, or which is a $3,041. It's only a $79,000 contract to start with over last year. And then also just to mention that in addition to that, we do pay dollar for dollar for the on-site chef manager for Jason.
Yeah, just a quick question. Do we ever send out surveys, like is it yearly, every few years, to the students to kind of get a sense? And if so, have we gotten any significant feedback on changes that we'd like to make?
We do. We partner with Ms. Oakley, and she helps us out with the technology and the data crunching with everything else. But we do survey both faculty and staff, which we did just recently. I want to say it was around the holiday time. So we will actually revisit those survey results when we do a quarterly review with Quest, and then we develop action plans and implement them as we move forward, and then we'll kind of repeat the cycle over again.
Okay, Tiana, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Benson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the transitions, renovations, and grounds building project in the amount of $5,683,742?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I don't know if Jen or Dan wanted,
I will tee it off, and I will ask, we have Dan, obviously our Director of Facilities here. We also are accompanied by Pepper Construction. We have Lance Trish with us, as well as Todd Doyle, to answer any of your really hard questions. I will tee it up for you. Obviously, we've talked about this for, well, I've talked about it for probably 8 years, but we've talked about it very specifically over the last 2 years as a portion of the $15 million borrow that the board authorized in January of 2022, 2022, I think it was designated for these two particular projects. They are here at West Campus, specifically renovating the transition student space, which is downstairs in this building where we serve our special needs population. And then also it is renovating, or demolishing, I should say, the shed that we have in the back, which is where we house our grounds equipment, building new restrooms that will be accessible to the athletics on that part of the field, as well as recapture, I think, 24 parking spaces as well, as we remove that facility and move out to the pad that was originally built in 2006 to house that actual spot for the grounds, and also some facility workers. So we've provided some pictures. We tried to do a really thorough pack so we'd have some history as we went forward. So we do have included in your packet tonight pictures of all of the places that we're talking about, the existing facilities and some of the concept drawings. This is a fast construction, in my opinion. Maybe Lance and Todd would agree, but if approved, we would break ground on this in actually like a fall start, so like an end of July, August start, because that was a very advantageous time for us to bid, and we have flexibility with our transition students as far as servicing their needs. We would move those students up here to our seminar rooms, to our conference rooms, and we would do construction during the fall and hopefully finish by December of '23. So basically from August to December, and perhaps we could have a grand opening in January and move those students back. So I do have the gentleman here if you have all the hard questions. Otherwise, I'm happy to talk about the process or anything else.
okay, I'm going to open it up to the board for questions. I think that you all have been so thorough in recent months in educating us on this plan, on not only the need for the plan. I'm telling you, the picture of the grounds building after the snow, and the fact that the snow came literally through the building and was covering the grounds working space and materials, that was shocking. And I'm so grateful that we're going to be able to do better by you and your staff. But also tonight we had an opportunity to hear from the transitions department and one of their teachers and even a parent, and that was really meaningful and eye-opening. So I feel very fortunate as a member of the board that we were able to set these dollars aside in January of 2022, and that this is now going to happen. So thank you to all of you. Thank you for being here tonight. Sorry you had to sit so long through the agenda, but these kids are waiting even longer. So with that, if we don't have questions, I'm going to ask Tiana for a roll call vote.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 student fees?
So moved.
Second.
I guess as far as discussion, either John Noble or Dr. Hermes could just go.
We basically kept them the same, and that was kind of the, from the finance and ops meetings and discussions, so we were looking to continue that. I think we're looking at different ways coming in the next year or two to see if there are opportunities for us to lower that, but some of the key things is the transition from textbooks to text, and what we're doing with the MacBooks and some of that. So there'll be a little bit of an evolution of this and what the fees end up being. But I think one of the key things we did mention in the committee meeting was a couple different times is making sure we're communicating as a school that where parents or families need help, that door is open through several different ways. And I know through Ashley and Tim that happens, but I think there at some points and sometimes family situations change, and that may be embarrassing or something else happens, but trying to make sure that both the students are aware as well as the families and parents are aware that door is always open no matter the circumstances, and so that these fees should not be a barrier for participation or any type of inclusion on that. And so I think that's, again, the same attitude we've had for many years, but really trying to make sure that communication's happening and trying to have a stability for these fees for the parents and families.
Okay, thank you, John. May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So before we move on to the consent agenda items, because our human resources report is embedded in the consent agenda list, I would like to invite Dr. Sasson. Dr. Sasson, I'd like to invite you to make an introduction. I know we have someone here this evening. We have Peter Nadler here, and I thought you could introduce him to the board and the community.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Senator. Good evening again. It is my pleasure to introduce the new Director of Special Education for Lake Forest High School, District 115. I want to start by thanking the current Director of Special Education, Ms. Joey Kowalik, for her 4 years of leadership and guidance on behalf of Lake Forest High School. Joey has excitedly chosen to return to the classroom after 18 years in administration, and she is excited to do so. I'm excited for her as well, and we thank her for her leadership. It is my pleasure now to say a few words about Mr. Pete Nadler, who is here and joining us as the next Director of Special Education. Pete may or may not have written all or some of this, as he knows his children's names better than I do. So Pete has spent his entire career helping students. He has worked in every aspect of special education. He started as a teaching assistant, then moved to a self-contained teacher, a co-teacher and case manager, then to the department chair and director. He loves working with students, families, and teams to get help in the hands of students. Pete was a teaching assistant at New Trier High School, then spent 1 year at North Grand High School as a special education teacher. He then spent 9 years teaching and coaching at Mundelein High School before going to Lake Zurich High School in 2016, where he served as the special education department chair, then special education coordinator, and finally, assistant principal of student services. He then went to Barrington 220 as the director of student services, overseeing all aspects of special education and student services for the middle schools and the high school. He also served as the Barrington Transition Program principal, a very broad scope of responsibilities. More importantly, Pete has a wife who is also a special education administrator and 2 great kids, Max, who's 9, and Grace, who turned 8 this past Sunday. I couldn't possibly have known that. Through 2 rounds of committee feedback, however, staff, administrators said about Pete that they could tell he was highly communicative and highly collaborative, that they knew he approached all situations with a student-centered perspective. They felt like he'd be a kid and an adult magnet, and that he has an expert understanding of special education law. Speaking to colleagues, current and past of Pete, they said he will create trusting and collaborative relationships with staff. He has a very strong experience base in transition programming, which is vitally important to Lake Forest High School. And he will engage all families to be partners in their child's education. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome the new Director of Special Education for Lake Forest High School, Mr. Pete Nadler.
First of all, thank you, school board. That's really loud. Sorry, I'll get my face away from it. Yeah, my whole experience throughout at Lake Forest has been amazing, whether it's been talking to Laura or Patrick, or maybe getting a surprise role play in an interview. I don't know if that happened, but everything has been really positive, and really when I got to come interview, the real attractive part about this job was being in the school building with kids. I can leave my office, walk down the hall, because that's what energizes me, and that's what I love about this work. So I get to make a triumphant return to the North Suburban Conference, where I spent almost my entire career and my high school career at Libertyville. So I'm familiar with the area, and I guess we don't ever really leave Lake County. So really appreciate everything. I can't wait to cut stuff with a new plasma cutter. If I'm able to, I'll promise I can keep my fingers, hopefully. But no, I'm really excited for the opportunities, and I can't wait to get started. So thank you, guys.
Thank you and welcome. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second?
May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Ms. Zenzer?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, FOIA requests. Parents Care, 5 of 5 completed. Samir Vadra, 1 of 3 completed. Jeff Brinkett, 4 of 4 completed. Hannah Natanson, Washington Post, 1 of 1 completed. Dan O'Neill, 3 of 3 completed. Lucas Silva, 1 of 1 completed. Andrea Batiste, 3 of 3 completed. Frank McCormick, 1 of 1 completed. Zach Manchester, 1 of 1 completed. Lakeisha Robinson, 1 of 1 completed. Sherry Reed, Smart Procure, 2 of 2 completed. Skip Sheen, 1 of 1 in progress. We are now at the portion of our meeting where we offer members of the community an opportunity to speak to the board. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, and that you also, if individuals have spoken and already covered your topic, if you would refrain from stepping to the podium after then and repeating the same topic. But I would like at this time to invite anyone who wants to be first to speak to the board to step to the podium now, and please start by introducing yourself.
Okay. Hello, I'm Maya Taha, a junior at LFHS and a member of the Lake Forest Lake Bluff Students Demand Action. In the interest of time, in the SATs tomorrow, many of our students had to leave. However, we want to acknowledge their presence in support of our proposal. Respectfully, President Zinsser, we prepared public commentary that relates to the agenda items. We encourage that at future board meetings, the board consider taking a motion to hear the agenda items out of order, particularly when recognizing our responsibilities like SAT testing. The Safety and Security Shares Services and the District 115 referenda, as discussed in the superintendent's update tonight, dedicated 6.4% of the $0.7 million in funding, safety, and security measures, including a rapid lockdown system, which is considered a reactive safety measure. In order to comprehensively address the threat of firearm violence in our schools, we must also prioritize proactive safety policies like the secure storage resolution proposal shared with the board in March. As you may know, last Wednesday, about 100 students walked out on the front lawn of the high school in protest of the recent shootings around the United States and the neighboring communities. We were accompanied by over 60 parents, most of which came from our local Moms Demand Action groups. The Tuesday prior to our SDA walkout, Highland Park students walked out in protest of gun violence, but also to commemorate the lives lost on the July 4th shooting. 10 minutes after the walkout ended, students feared for their lives in a hard lockdown. Most surrounding schools, such as Deerfield High School, underwent a soft lockdown, and so did a few surrounding elementary schools, even District 67, Cherokee Elementary. The students at Highland Park High School who were said to have a gun left the premises of the building and reportedly made it to Highwood before being apprehended. We felt once again like there was no central communication to LFHS students and families. After bullets were found in our own library, we all appreciated the administration's recommitment to communication about safety and security. However, we believe that we should have received emails about our neighbors in Highland Park due to its close proximity. District 67 parents received emails, but District 115 students and families only heard about the news through word of mouth. While our siblings were taken home for the day or families were notified of the incident, we were frantically texting friends in Highland Park to try and grasp at anything we could. Our secure storage resolution highlights a recommitment to communication. We want this to be consistent as gun violence clearly persists in our neighboring communities. Uncertainty breeds fear. It amplifies fear, which is why we believe communication to be crucial in creating a safer community. We understand that the board's goal is to uphold a safe and secure environment, and we think the next step to doing so is a secure storage resolution. Reading the news about gun violence every week is hard to comprehend. Since we drafted our resolution in early March, there have been over 60 mass shootings. We're desensitized to gun violence. It sometimes can feel as if though we're stuck in a cyclical violence, but we believe things can change. There is one reason we are promoting the secure storage resolution. One of the many crucial steps to prevent gun violence are spreading awareness on gun safety and controlling youth access to firearms, all of which are achieved through our secure storage resolution. We are very grateful for the opportunity to update you on the Students Demand Action Secure Storage Resolution, and we hope you consider this topic for deliberation in the upcoming May agenda.
So wait, before you go. I want to do something a little different because I can. Can I ask your fellow students to join you at the podium? Could you all come up? Because I would like to address you all together. I think some of the board members will want to also chime in. So first of all, I just want to clarify, we are required, legally required, to post our agenda 48 business hours prior to our board meetings. And this was not on that agenda, so we do have to follow that policy, okay? We didn't create the policy, but we are required to follow it. So I just wanted to clarify that. But I wanted to let you know that when your group came to our March meeting, your voices were heard. We listened. We respect how you're feeling. We respect that the world right now feels really scary and unsafe. The board has received emails from parents in the community letting us know that they feel scared and unsafe. I will share something with you that I shared with some of the adults that reached out to me. I have a daughter who is a teacher, and I was with her in Nashville on the day of the Covenant School shooting. And I'm sorry to get emotional, but watching my daughter's reaction and being in Nashville, where the entire city was reacting, was powerful, let me tell you. And this entire board cares about making our student experience as outstanding as we can, and the last thing we want you students worrying about is whether you're safe inside our building. So yes, there are dollars in the referendum that we presented to this community that will enable us to do physical things to increase and enhance safety, but this board does want to work and support you on a safe storage resolution that we can bring forward and that we can adopt as a board and send that message to the community And we'd also like to encourage you, because we are a school board that represents a little over 1,400 students. We are a small voice in this mission that you are on. And I would encourage you to take your voices and spread your net wider. I would encourage you to communicate with your local police departments. I would encourage you to communicate with your aldermen and city council members in the 3 communities that we are a part of. I would encourage you to get involved with your congressmen and your senators and let them hear what you have to say. We heard you, and we support you, and we want to work with you on doing this important, resolution and bringing it to fruition. It is my goal, and I said this to the board tonight in our workshop, I know it's fast, but I would love to have something that we can actually vote on as a board at our May meeting. I hope that happens. I think it's possible that we can make it happen. I know it feels probably from your perspective like sometimes our work is slow, but we have a lot of legal requirements that govern us, and so we want to do this right. But I wanted you to know, and I wanted you all to be a part of this, that we hear you, and we appreciate that you took the time to be here. I said it at the start of the meeting, I knew it was going to be a long meeting, and I'm sorry that you sat and waited this long, but I'm grateful that you sat and waited this long. Okay, so thank you, and it was really important to all of us that you know that you have a voice, you used it, you were heard, and you are going to make a difference with our support.
Thank you.
If anyone else wants to say anything,
I'll just say quickly, the first role of government, and I'm sure you guys talk about this in your history and social studies classes, is to keep people safe. It's to keep communities and citizens safe. And we're a democracy. When the laws aren't working to keep people safe, then people have to step forward and make their voices heard. So we're super grateful for you guys for kind of giving us a kick in the rear end. We needed it, and we hope you keep going. So thank you.
Thank you.
One last thing from me would be to, when I came on the board 4 years ago, they gave me a little committee called EdRed, and I was reminded by the superintendent that being an elected official, we represent a good number of people. And so going to the congressmen, going to the senators and those offices, that they would actually listen and they would actually take the meetings and the discussions. So that happened for me. That was easy to do, but it required picking up the phone to do it. So if you're needing to get any of those meetings or conversations, you let us know, and we'll try to be there either with you or help you have that meeting and have that opportunity to have that discussion, because you should have the right to do that. And it doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult. That right is yours. And so it's sometimes you have to wait in line a little bit, a lot of other competing priorities, but don't lose the passion and don't lose what your goal is. And it may be in small steps, because it does take a bit. And I think on our side, as Jenny said, we'll move as fast as we can, but we want to be thoughtful and we want to encompass all the ideas so that we're not leaving something out. To try to go backwards and fix it is really, really hard. Yeah. So I think as you continue on your message and your mission here is to continue that thought, continue that dialogue, because there'll be new ideas brought for you that will improve maybe where you are today to make it even better. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good luck tomorrow with the SAT. Okay, moving on to announcements. We have only one, and that is that Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 at 7 o'clock, the Board of Education of District 115 will be meeting right here again at West Campus. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board meeting for April 11th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a voice vote, please? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.